Cafeteria Fund 143. This is to appropriate USDA grant funds received for the purchase of a serving line at Woodland Park, along with our local required match. So that's an amount of $85,000. Then there is an amendment in the amount of $100,000 to appropriate USDA supply chain assistance grant funding towards the additional food expenses that were incurred by the district. And then finally, in this packet of in this part of the amendments, Fund 143 again, Central Cafeteria Fund, there's an amount of $255,075 to reallocate funds within the fund to help better align with the projected annual expenditures. So, stop briefly right there and see if anybody has any questions for Mr. Markham, Ms. Savage, or I.
Mr. Chairman, is that pretty much got our cafeteria fund online and balanced?
The question is the cafeteria fund online and balanced?
After these movements? Okay. Just out of my head, those numbers should have got us close.
So Mr. Markham, when you have unassigned fund balances and you're moving that over, basically you're just making sure that monies that have already been paid for staff, payroll, and things like that, they get appropriated. You've got the credit to offset the debit for that expense in your book. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. The money's there, we're just moving it around. And sometimes we'll over appropriate for the fiscal year end just to make sure as we're closing out our invoices without NEC and everything, that we have enough in there because if we are over in one line, then that poses an issue for audits. We'd rather have extra money in that line and not need it.
Okay. Thank you.
Next, we move into General Purpose School Fund 141 is next in your packet. There's an amount of $306, excuse me. This is category cleanups for funds needed for salaries in which resulted in years of service, and category to be paid against the new salary scale to put in place for the 23-24 school year. So just adjustments to cover the salaries according to our pay scale.
Is that consistent with all those amendments in that particular budget amendment?
Yes, the next one is for benefits for the same purpose. And then the next one is for cover of liability and building contents insurance. Just shuffling funds from one line item to the other to cover some closeout end of the year items where it's needed more.
Okay. All right.
This is the part that's sideways, right?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
I apologize.
Have we always had to
I can
look
tell that you're
sideways?
looking at it because your head's orientated.
Mine is too. I've turned my whole computer.
If I could get my eyeballs rolled up far, I wouldn't move my head, but I was trying to stay with you.
So no unbudgeted expenses reflected here. It's basically just accounting journal entries to get monies appropriated and showing up in the right category.
Just getting them in the right line.
Correct. Okay. So that would be the second set of budget amendments. That would be in your packet, be 6D.
Yeah, the next budget amendment that would be maybe a little different from that would be moving on down to General Purpose School Fund 141, adjustments that were needed for the summer learning camp. So that's something that's current now. That's an amount of $8,325. Again, just shuffling money from instructional program to where it's needed for food service and instructional other charges and regular instruction equipment. And then the last one in this particular portion of your packet, also an adjustment for a summer learning camp, an adjustment that was needed for the maintenance of buses in the amount of $8,300. So moving money from one transportation line of tire and tubes to maintenance of vehicles. So not new money or any money being pulled out of the bank, just money we're shuffling from one line item to the other to meet program needs at the end of the fiscal year. So, any particular questions about that part of your packet? There's several more, but just those particular ones.
Pretty good. Okay.
Okay, all right, pleases the board. I'll move on to the next category. It's 06D federal budget amendments in your packet. This is adjustments to our ESSER 3.0 amendments, and I'll let Ms. Felton speak to that if she would, please.
There's just little bits left over in different places, like our all-core tutors who paid half of the ESSER, half of the all-core money, and now that those final salaries have been, the checks are situated, we're just pulling every little penny out of everything to put it over for the Bonnie Croft building. So there was just a little bit left, like architects, they've been taken care of with a GP transfer earlier, and so it's just getting it where we can spend it all on Bonnie Croft and finish with those funds.
So when it's, with these amendments and that money appropriated for Bonnie Croft, then we're not leaving any money on the table. We're getting it appropriated, put area where we can use it.
Right, it was still kind of jet, like I'll probably have to rebudget it again later, it just depends on how when all of our bills come in and how it gets paid out. But, yeah, we're not gonna lose any money off of it, they've actually extended some time to get it done.
Okay.
The Bonnie Croft is getting finished, so we're gonna finish that on that.
And we've had changes as recent as 2 days ago. Ms. Felton made some changes, and we were able to pick up a part of a salary that we didn't think we were going to be able to before. So, so these are, it's part of the end of the year wrap up. So there's some things that are very new, but are being presented to you tonight. So any questions about the ESSER reallocations? If not, we'll move on to one that is oriented correctly in your packet. It is 060 Federal Budgets 3. This is Fund 142. This is our title funds, some of our title funds. And this is an amount of $15,395. This is remaining funds left in educational assistance salaries and benefits are being transferred to teacher salary to cover a deficit from the budget reduction for the state. If you recall that we had title money that was withdrawn or reduced a few weeks ago or a few months ago, and so this is to shuffle some money to help compensate for that where it was left over.
The same thing, now that ACE salaries are, we know how many hours they work now, those checks are finalized, and we can use some of that fund to help take care of what we were short before.
So once we've satisfied the requirements for the federal program, then those monies would be available to transfer over to pick up something that would be a state expense. Is that what we're?
Not really, it's just, they took so much money away, we had a short teacher salary, and GP was picking up teacher salary, but now that we know how much A's pay is, there's some extra in A's pay, but I'm just pulling it over to teacher pay to help finish that out. It's still gonna be, GP's still gonna have to pick up some of it.
Yeah.
But I guess what I'm saying is that, let me try to make sure I phrase my question right. Federal money for a federal program, and we came in under budget in our expenses. And so for that program, that monies would be allowed to go into general purpose?
No.
No, you're just paying,
Yeah,
you're still paying in program.
Yeah, we're already short for teachers, what was his name, they short us like $97,000 for this current school year, and we just took it all off teachers and said GP's gonna have to pay part of the teacher salary, and now that the teacher's assistants paychecks are finalized, there's a little bit extra in that fund. We're just filling in the gaps that GP doesn't have to pay so much for teachers.
Gotcha. But we've already had the expense.
Yeah.
Okay, it's still in the same
Yeah,
program.
it's federal aides and federal teachers. We didn't have enough money to pay the teacher. We had a little left over in the aides. We're moving it over to the teachers. GP's still going to have to pay for the remainder of the teachers, but it's going to lessen the blow by shuffling what was left out of aides in the federal
It's
program.
kind of the aides' salaries a little more different every time, depending on the sick days and days off and whatever, where teacher salaries are more set. So we just had to get those finalized amounts for what the teacher's assistants would be paid.
Okay.
And then any extra we shuffle over to take care of the deficit that we have with teachers since they pulled money away. GP, not.
Yeah, so, yeah, thank you for being conscious of the GP impact, all right?
Yeah,
Okay.
try to make it stretch where we can.
The next one is $6,810, the same type of situation. This is benefits for those aides. We're going to shuffle over to the teacher category to help lessen the blow for the general purpose budget to pick up the difference. And then the last one in this particular category is $175,265.96. This is budget carryover from June 30th, 2023 from the original allocation. Do you want to speak to that? Just
I don't
That
have
was-
it in front of me.
That was the budget carryover, the 175,000.
Oh, that's gonna be, that's in the ESSER, that's pulling all the little extras out of ESSER and putting in, I thought we were just talking about that, but it's where educational assistants, again, that was the tutors, it's little extra salaries here and there that we're pulling over and paying for Barney Croft. So it's not really carryover yet, we're probably gonna get spent out before carryover rolls around.
So this is, again, just moving money that was left over from different categories in the title program into other federal programs and payments.
This is the same thing we did a while ago.
That's what I was thinking. That's
Okay.
the same thing we just did on
Okay.
one page. Yeah, that's,
Yeah, when the page was in blue, that's how it appears in my budget.
okay.
And then the white page is how page that Ms. Alice put together, Mr. Martin today, we don't know. But yeah, those segments that we just talked about.
Okay.
Yeah, no, that's good. Thank you for the clarification.
Okay. Sorry.
No, just for just reference, it's, so federal monies can be moved around in federal programs, state monies would have to stay in state programs, and general purpose fund would have to pick up any shortfall between the two.
Yes.
Oh, great. Thank you for the clarification.
So can I ask for another clarification here? This money's going towards Bonnie Croft, or is this money going towards the 200,000 that we were short in one program?
Bonnie Croft. It was earmarked for, it's in the ESSER, it's kind of earmarked for Bonnie Croft.
Okay.
It's just, we were, not that GP was gonna have to pick up part of Bonnie Croft, and so now that those TNL core salaries are finished, anything extra, I'm shuffling over to Bonnie Croft, just again, listen to what GP has to
So will this finish paying Bonnie Croft?
pay.
Not entirely.
No?
No.
It will help.
Okay.
We'll just finish it kind of what funds we have in the ESSER.
All right, Ms. Felton, would you like to continue to talk about your federal programs budget, which is the next item that's in this?
Okay, this is for next year's, I'm sorry, I just walked.
Yes.
through this. And this is next year's budget, and it is, all computers don't work the same. Yeah, just scroll down. Yeah. But it is, when you get to the third page of that document, it is just what's in, that's Title I, that's $471,000 set aside for teachers, and then you go through each category, and that would be like our interventionists at each school, the teachers' assistants, educational assistants, and that are assistants, the majority of those work inside the intervention classroom with those Title I teachers. So that's just paying for them and their benefits. The instructional materials and supplies money is very, very skimpy this year. Usually it's more than that, and that's just where funding is cut. So again, it's just going back to some bare bones kind of things there. And I have my salary in there, and there's half of an instructional coach in there as well. Some in-service downtime where I go to federal programs meetings to stay on top of things that's going on. I do one online today. I was excited about some things that's coming down the pipe. District Plano has to be done once every 3 years now, so there's some good things they're freeing up for us. Not so stringent on some things or some often. Transportation, we have a little bit of money in there. Foster care children, if they need transportation, we can help with that. Eisenhower, that chat on page 5, Eisenhower, Title II. I should look at the top, you see that word Eisenhower. Title II is where I pay for some of the instructional coaches, it's some of our PD for our teachers and administrators in schools to go to conferences, workshops, to gain information. Most of the time when they go to those, they come back and share our warrior workshop. We're going down to page 6. VI, that's more in Title II. The substitute teachers is paying for.
Are you in your
substitute-
budget?
Mhm. Yes, am I not following along where y'all are at?
Some-
I see, well, I'm on page 6.
Yeah, it's page 6 that has Title II at the top.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's of 18 pages, is that where y'all are at?
Yes.
Okay.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
So the instructional coach is 128,000. Is that covering all of them?
No, there's some, it's the half of Fair Griffith, her other half is 21st Century. It's half Cindy Vickers, her other half is in Title I. So it's just, I pay for them where I can or what I can.
Right,
And they're
just
halved
kind
up,
of
So that's
full.
not all.
Okay.
That's a good question. That's some of the instructional coaches. And then going down to page 7. Page 7 is Title IV funds. Title IV funds does a variety of things. It's again half of another instructional coach. It's giving some things to schools. Certain, like last year we bought a sousaphone for the high school band. We had to wait 2 years for that sousaphone to come in. It finally made it here for 2 years. So some of there's specific things some schools need that come out of that as well. So it's paid for AP testing for high school students, so they have that as an out-of-pocket expense. But a lot of it is salary. It's also going to be paying salaries for 2 people to help with family resource and the homeless students to keep track of those and get their needs met, outside classroom needs and that. Okay, and then the next one is more Title IV. Again, substitute teachers, this is paying for technology leads to go to conferences. We have a technology lead, at least one at each school, sometimes more than one. And that's, technology's found it very helpful that those leads are in there, that the teachers can have somebody in-house that's got an in-house expert to go ask questions through and help them use some of their technology better. Again, some instructional coach down there. And then let's go to the next page. Any questions, just holler. Title V, again, that is for the coach and a half out of that. I just have to get half of one fund, half of out of another. So that pays for the math coach, and they have the middle school and some elementary as well, plus another half coach. That's the ELAs. Title V is coach and benefits. And the rest is going to be IDA. After page 10, yeah, page 11 gets the Perkins and professional things. Can't speak to the rest of those. The rest would be Perkins and IDEA probably.
Okay.
So that's, Perkins would be our CTE and the others are IDA that's sped.
So, board members, has probably gone over the federal budget on our title funding. It's given us an explanation. We have the budget numbers, and then we have where the planned expenditures for those funds are going. So appreciate y'all putting that together in a way where we can see, and they all appear to come out in balance, so that's good. So that'll set the budget for these programs and for this fiscal year 2025.
Any other questions? I might be able to answer some of that IDEA, I'm not sure.
I got one about the Perkins, Mr. D, the other supplies and materials, because we have instructional supplies and materials, and then career and technical instructional equipment. So what would the other supplies and materials be? That's 16,000 and some odd dollars. Page 12.
Okay. Thank you.
I can log on an e-plan and let you know, and it's usually
I
a
was just kidding. I was just kidding.
process to system.
It's at, Mr. Markham, that's 71,300, 499.
And then other categories just, if they don't fit somewhere else, you throw it in others. Sometimes things just don't go where you think they would.
And just so you know, those account titles are set by the state, so they're not customizable. So they just are what they are, essentially, for accounting statewide.
Yeah.
So that makes it a little bit difficult to try to find stuff.
would it be that when you take your budget number and you go in and you start budgeting for your substitute teachers and new substitute teachers and Social Security and match on that, you have a pretty good idea maybe what you're going to spend on software, a pretty good idea what you're going to be on instructional equipment. You take the difference of those of your income and your expenses, and you say, okay, we've got some number left off, and you don't know, you've got some things in mind where you put it, but you don't have a actual account code that you could put it in. You put it in the other and just say that's what other means.
Some categories for materials are specific for it. I'm sorry, it says it won't load that page for me today. If you go to it too many times in one day, sometimes it keeps you up once you back in. Sometimes there's specific codes for like a teacher's going to use supplies, codes for students are going to use supplies, and sometimes it's neither one of those. You just put it in other. It's just a random catch-all.
Yeah, you're correct. But there are probably some specific items that are going to be purchased out of that, but
Right,
that
we
is,
just don't
but there's
know.
not an individual line item for each one of those
Right.
by the state standard, so that's where it falls into other.
No, I get it. Okay, thank y'all.
So the remainder of those pages get into IDEA, and that's our special ed funding. And so you can go down and see the teachers, instruction, our school psychologists, all their benefits, travel, testing. These are all similar numbers from last year based on our expenses. Bus drivers for special ed, their benefits, equipment. So all that, the final pages are all federal special ed funding numbers.
And these federal numbers, they are all specifically for that program. There's no what you might call admin for the district out of those. All those monies have to be spent specifically on that program that they're identified for. Is that correct?
Like my salary's put on there, so that could be considered an admin portion of that.
Right.
I don't know if Dr. Thompson's salary is in his budget or not, if what's a GP.
But you're still, some of your time is devoted towards these programs, so it's justified that your time would be spent to that, and you would use those monies for that. But
She has to actually keep a daily log of the time that she
And
spends.
how many hours and minutes I spend on everything every day.
But we don't get any money we don't get any rent money for allowing you to have an office here. That's paid out of.
A lot of times there's an indirect cost that's allowable to.
Okay.
We have to pay for the lights and all that, but with the budget cuts this year, the salary and that today, she said, I noticed I have no indirect cost. I'm like, no. we
So
don't, it's a salary.
so on that federal money, there could be indirect costs
Yes.
that where the Fed money would contribute to here, but not
It's
in.
allowable.
Not under the situation we're in now. That's understandable.
We're trying to pull up the budget, and it's just being difficult.
No, that's fine.
Well, it's kicked us offline a couple times, so
That's,
Back on.
I mean, I'm back on now.
I think it was user error.
Okay,
The,
keep in mind.
do y'all have any other questions on that? On the
Federal.
federal monies? I'm glad we got it in. I'm glad that they're committing to providing us
Line item
funds.
where you're curious about that was others, managed to get hers to go.
Have we received any money, new money since our budget?
Certification?
Yes,
Okay.
that other is where they have to pay for students to be able to take their industry certification exams.
Oh.
So that those students can take that exam and then they can receive that credential.
I've got it.
So see, it's not really material to go somewhere else.
Right.
You're paying for something that's in the other.
Yes.
Those are
Gotcha.
two questions, when we can get computers to work, we can.
That's right, that's right.
I'm just.
Mr. Howard, what was your question?
Have we received any federal money since our budget? Or will we receive any, like, after June 30th?
That's.
We've not received any new
It's-
funding since we approved the budget.
Okay.
But now, when we approved the budget, there was no federal monies in that. That's what we're looking at right now, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, so
Back
this-
earlier, our budget just got approved last week.
I was gonna say.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
you haven't looked at our federal budget for next year yet, that's what you're seeing tonight.
Yeah.
It just got approved from the state last week.
Mhm.
It's quite the process of been sent back and forth with certain things they want done to it.
So just clarity, there's 3 budgets that we approved: cafeteria fund, general purpose fund, and the federal fund. Now, after tonight, we'll have satisfied all 3 of those budgets as far as review and having those monies presented and then how they'll be allocated.
Yeah, it's a difficult timeline in which the GP budget, we really push that faster than it probably needs to go, but we do that on that timeline in which the county commission needs it in order to get it through their steering committee to get it approved so that we can go into this next fiscal year with an approved budget. So that speeds that process up. Ms. Savage always has hers ready to go, and cafeteria fund, it's in good shape. It's not as detailed, but she does a good job of having it lined up, and so we're able to present that in June or in May as well. But as Ms. Felton just said, we don't get the numbers from the feds until now. That's why it didn't come earlier with the other 2. We just now got numbers. Like I said, we got a change 2 days ago. We were able to make a change, and so it's just this is as soon as the information comes from the federal budget.
Well, I always remember parts, but not all, so thanks for your clarification.
No, it's a good question.
So, any other questions on that, on those federal monies? Okay, then speak to.
And about asking if any more federal money would come in. Any little bits and pieces that we didn't use this year will come in the fall. Usually September, October is carryover. I'm gonna have minimal, anything. Dr. Thompson might have a little bit, but it would be spoken for already, so. Yeah, we're not expecting anything new and big. It's just like little bitty pieces that we didn't use this year, because I got most of that transferred over to help take care of teacher salaries, so that you can get some of that up.
The next item in your folder, board members, is just it's actually another copy of the 143 cafeteria fund. So you can jump over that one, and then the next one is consolidated Title I, 50,000.
That's the same thing we just looked.
Oh, is it? It's in there again. It's in there again.
The blue and white pages are what I give Ms. Sally to show her what.
Okay, she issued those to me again. So that's just those are just extra copies then. So those next 2 we've already addressed. So I apologize.
Is it the blue and white pages you were looking at?
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes, we've already addressed those previously.
All right.
So I believe that's all the budget amendments and, of course, the federal budget being sent forth for approval tonight.
Okay. So, are we in consent that and reviewed those, or no questions for pull those out? Okay. All right. Then we'll leave those in consent agenda. All right. So we'll get down to our policy report. As I have it, as I show that in the policy, we have policy report 6200, 4200, and 4201. Those are second reading policies. We touched on those last week, so those are for second reading. So do we have any questions about those policies?
Class size, attendance.
That would be attendance,
Mine's gone.
Yeah, that's right.
the curriculum approval. That see that was
And
fourth grade math.
basic program.
Sorry,
Fourth year math.
Fourth year math,
I'm
yeah.
sorry,
Fourth year math.
fourth year math, and then the approval of the class, and that those kind of go together. Policy 4200, 4201. One saying that we have the ability to do that, and then 4201 is where we identify those. So that's coming up for second reading tonight. Then there is a policy that is somewhat time sensitive. That's 5310. Juneteenth is designated as a federal holiday, and so we're proposing adding that to our policy 5310 in the as one of the holidays that we observe, and that would be paid holidays. So the request tonight would be to amend policy 5310 so that Juneteenth is added as a vacation day, and those vacation days mean paid holidays. Now, that would apply to people that are on 11 and 12-month pay cycles. It's not going to apply to those that are on 10-month cycles, correct?
Correct. It's not a large number of people, and it's something that the board had discussed last year, but we just didn't amend the policy at that time. But we did put it on the calendar, such we planned for that to be off during summer school. But obviously it's coming up, so we'd like to go ahead and get it in policy officially. It's not a huge number of people. You're talking about maintenance staff, some clerical staff, custodial staff. That's about, and most administrators can have that day off anyway, as they're on 11-month contracts. So, so anyway, but like I said, it's something that the board had discussed last year at this time. We really kind of regretted not having that day off, and we had scheduled summer school that day, so we made corrections for that, but we need to make the change in the policy to make it official.
Any questions about making that change to policy 5310?
And I'm sorry, 5310 is much further down in your packet, but it is in there. I think numerically the computer put it farther down for me.
Would you describe again what's the backing behind this Juneteenth Day?
It's a federal holiday, and it just wasn't recognized last year by White County Schools, and so several of our employees questioned that, and we made a vow at that point that we would correct it for next year, and it's next year. So.
So what we would, what?
It's right here.
Just right here, to the policy, E.
Zero 06 EV 5310 in your PDF file. And so what this would do, this would add that as a holiday to the 12-month for support personnel and 11-month support personnel. Would not apply to 10-month.
It's really
personnel.
It's really just 12-month employees that it affects. Is that correct, Mr.? 11. Well, it could be. I guess.
11 should be August to June 30th. That's how 11 months are considered.
But you only work 20 days out of those 2 months, so
Right, but
that would be.
like my technicians are 11 months, so they work June. They're not supposed to work in July. They take.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there's several.
Right. Right, in maintenance and in our clerical, like.
So is there any questions on that? So we would have consent on adding that to our vacation and holidays, and then we would also have consent on foregoing the need for second reading, this being time sensitive.
I'm good.
Okay, if I have consent, then I'm going to, unless I hear otherwise, I'm going to leave that in consent, and we will get that updated and make that policy effective immediately. So next, as we try to work our way through this, in your packet regarding some of the policies that we'll be looking at in our regular meeting as we roll through there, I just want to point your attention to that we do have from Bennett and DeCamp their legislative update, which basically goes through 87 pages, which gives some legal background regarding legislation that was passed and policies that we're going to have to consider either adopting or updating. So that is a point of reference for you in your packet. So when we get into the that portion of our meeting.
Can I speak to that, Mr. Chairman?
Absolutely.
Just for clarification, this is the June meeting where you're going to get a lot of the all the new policies that have been passed by the legislature. So we have the examples of the proposed new policies in your packet. You also have a synopsis from TSBA with a breakdown. At the end of all those, you'll find that kind of gives you the Cliff Notes version of what the changes will be. And then, as he said, our board attorney, Scott Bennett, has provided a lengthy description of those changes so you can get really in detail. So what we're proposing the board do tonight is accept the proposed TSBA recommendations tonight on first reading, and then over the next month I'll have highlighted the changes, what was different from this policy to the last policy, and then we'll bring them back again for second reading in July before they would go into effect. So just want to be clear, it's a lot of information, we understand, but it doesn't all have to be digested tonight.
Any questions for approach we're taking regarding the policies? That it's a lot, and reviewing, and I'm thankful that we've got information to review from TSBA and from Bennett and DeCamp. But as we get into that, we'll discuss some of the policies that would be new, some of the policies that would be updated, and we'll cover that in our main meeting.
The bad part about all of these new policies and all that is our next meeting is before the summer law, where we're going to get a detailed description of all the policies so that went into effect over the last legislative session. So that's the only downfall I see, is our next meeting is before we get to go to that program, to be able to hear all their changes and hear directly from them. So, but lots of reading here. So.
Yeah, just unfortunately, the August meeting, we'll already be back in school and have to be adhering to those laws. So that's, the timing of that is not good.
And Mr. McDonald brings up a good point, and I would certainly echo what he's saying. And just when you think about the purpose of us going to that July meeting, to get an update on that, but being time sensitive, having something in place, then we always, as a board, we're responsible for policy. We can come back and look at their policy. If something catches our attention during that meeting, we can always come back and make amendments to policy. So it's not like we're making a decision of something that would be set in stone and could not be amended at some point in time. Okay, so the next, we've been given a maintenance report for June, and you've had that to review. Any questions on the maintenance report?
Nothing about maintenance, but I just want to follow up with Bondycroft. It's July 1. They're going to be finished?
That's what I told them 3 times at the last meeting. I said, we will start school on August 1st. So I can't guarantee there won't be someone running around with a paintbrush still, but we will be in the school and operational by the start of school. So
Nothing news come up to postpone that or?
no, we don't see anything. They're working really hard. Last construction meeting was positive. They feel like they're going to be able to get things finished. Like I said, there will still be people floating around, touching things up, but we'll be operational by the start of school.
Do we have another meeting date? I mean, I know I keep on asking this.
Yeah, I will check and see when our next, do you know when our next schedule?
I don't think we have one on the schedule right now.
I don't know that we do.
Would you care to just let us know?
Sure.
Because if at all possible, I'm gonna try to come up to that one since I've had to miss the
Sure,
last
they're
two.
normally on
Friday.
8:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
Yep, but I will let you know. I don't think there's one on the schedule right now.
Ditto for me too, please.
Sure, I'll let the entire board know.
Okay.
Okay. Moving on, we have a school report. We get a June update on how they finished up last month. This will probably be reflective of some of the things that took place in May since our last meeting. And some updates there about summer learning camp and getting started on that at Finley and other work, things that are going on. Any questions on the school report? Budget report, Ms. Markham, I'll let you speak to that, but it does appear that we were able to come in expense-wise under budget. So again, congratulations and thank you to all those that had a part in making that happen.
Say that again?
Come in under.
I guess we still have June. That's right. As of May, we're trending. As of May, we're trending very positive.
So we're not gonna be in the deficit like we,
Oh, for this is 2023 budget.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm looking at our
24,
current year budget.
As
Yeah,
soon as
so-
I found it.
So through May 31st, 2024, we have collected 87.36% of our total revenues, 34 million, just a little over 34 million, or 39 million budgeted amount there. Most of our local taxes actually are over collected at this point. We still have a final TISA payment, to come in. It'll come in June in two parts. It'll kind of be a true up of that, and they kind of reverse out any issues that any reductions that they have to find or anything like that. We don't anticipate that being an issue with us, but we will receive the final TISA payment that should bring that state of Tennessee amount closer to budget there. As far as expenditures, we've spent $19.9 million on salaries, and then an additional $5 million in benefits. That includes 10 of the 12 months for teachers. Again, you can see that we're ahead of last year, but that also has to do with that additional month that is included right now that wasn't included in the fiscal year 23 numbers. Whenever you see the June report, those will finally even out, and we expect a pretty good result there. Overall, our revenues are ahead of our expenditures, just shy of $2 million. This at the end of May. The same point in last fiscal year it was 3.6. So taking into account a normal teacher payroll, we're about where we were last year as far as that goes. And we finished out last year just with about $2 million going back into fund balance. That we ended up transferring over to 142 for cash flow purposes, but for all practical purposes, that would went back to fund balance. So right now, we're not seeing any issues closing out this fiscal year, and think we should be in pretty good shape. Does anybody have any specific questions that I can address there? I will point out in other sources of revenue, you can see that it's almost $1,000 or 1,000% over actual over budget, and that's just because of some insurance funds that we received that we need to use to offset expenditures, and we'll do that here at the end of the fiscal year in June for buses and where the bus was wrecked. So that'll clear out the budget, obviously, for insurance revenue. So that's what that increase.
Okay. Any other questions on our budget report? Okay, then TLN report, Mr. Howard.
Well, Mr. Chairman, we've got a whole budget, or a whole packet full of amendments and everything that I'm going to just pass on a lot of what I had to say on to what we're going to be studying for the next couple of months right here. I do have just a couple of highlights. It doesn't mean that what we've talked about in the past has or hasn't passed, but or is still yet to come. But I was reading, I think it's last night, where Governor Lee signed on a 4th grade retention to allow parents, teachers, and principals to decide retention even after a second straight year of low reading score. Also allows for more tutoring for students who advise to 5th grade. Is that new?
I'm sorry, sir?
Is that new, where Governor Lee has signed a new 4th grade retention? I know we're still battling over 3rd grade and 5th grade now, but.
Well, they did, it's not necessarily new. They did make some changes. They did provide some leniency. So, parents are involved in the process, and it's a
Right.
team decision. So
Yeah.
we were thankful to get some leniency there.
So maybe that'll move into 3rd grade, 5th grade, maybe where it'll all settle down, calm down, where everything get as much back to normal. And so it's a good sign, good sign. And just some other highlights, there's new compensation rules for hourly employees. Students are also now going to be able to require reasonable access to printed versions of e-textbooks. And some of the rest of it is just managerial, some of it is cleanup, public meeting notices to be published in newspaper or general circulation, as well as free sites. Is that something we do now? Is it advertised in the newspaper?
Yes.
Does it have our agenda on it also, or does it just have meetings and times?
It's meetings and times, and then on the website, then the agendas are posted.
I don't know if it's going to change that or not. I don't know if it's going to have to be an agenda published, or that's going to have to be looked at further maybe. The age-appropriate firearm safety is postponed till 25-26, year 25. And of course, then still the faculty or staff to carry concealed still passed, but a lot of hurdles to overcome there. And one of the last things, allowing employees up to 4 hours to take off to vote instead of 3 hours. Is that something new, or is that something?
No, that's a new change.
Okay. But we're usually off the days of election anyway,
Yes,
so.
because they use our schools for
Yeah.
polling places.
Sexual exploitation of children offenses to include the terms material such as CGI, computer generated, and/or AI. So that's something to be aware of too, as far as we're going to be required to have AI classes now in middle school, and so that's something also to be protecting ourselves about. And the Family Rights and Responsibility Act declares that the ability of a parent to direct the upbringing, education, health care, and mental health of that parent's child is a fundamental right, has been implemented into this past legislation. So that's just some of the things that, other than what we'll be guaranteed to see in our package right here, as far as setting our policies, that may be something, I try to look for the sidebars right here that might be implementing or moving or changing other policies in the future down the road too. So whether it helps or not, that's it, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you, Mr. Howard. So board members, we've given a monthly threat assessment report update. You can see that this one was left open at conclusion. It may have been addressed by now, but at the time of this report, there was only 3, and one was continuing to be monitored. Get into personnel reports, and you see the number of applicants and the number of hires that were made in the month of May. Any questions on that? Following that, we also have the May 24th personnel changes, so you can see the list of new hires, terminations, and transfers. So that information has been given to you as well. Given the time that we have, I'm going to recommend that we pull these district fundraiser approvals out, move those into new business, because it's my oversight of just thinking about how much time would be would be required in this session to review our consent items. So I'm going to ask Mr. D to move that down into, that'll be line item, new business line item D. Then with that, we have our approval of our board meeting schedule for 24-25 year, and all the meetings will be held here at the Board of Education. We have a theme next year that was recommended for 2025 by our director is School Health Heroes, and be focusing on the physical, social, and emotional well-being of our it's going to be focused on physical, social, and emotional health, and so that will be items on our 24-25 school year. That will be our theme. And then also we've been updated about the completion of our internal school audit by Mr. Buddy Dicus, CPA here local. You have the actual hard copy of that tonight. As it was presented to you, we have a good audit report, only a minor finding that appeared to be able to be corrected, but everything's per Mr. Dicus' report seemed to be that the financials of the district are being managed well. So appreciate all those that are have a part in that. So any questions about consent items?
I would just like to say one thing, and it may not be feasible, but they mentioned our July is before we go to the TSBA conference. Could we not reschedule it, or it's when we come back, or is that like a definite no?
It could be, but it's very late. I mean, that,
I know it'd have to be probably 2 weeks, well, close to 2 weeks.
we're, the 18th, 19th, 20th is the summer law, and
Right.
then the very next week, I mean, by the
School
26th,
kinda.
teachers are back and on the 26th. I mean, it's possible, but I mean,
It was
it
just
would,
something to throw out.
it would have to happen that following week, because the following week we're back in school.
Right.
So then-
I would think, board members, if you felt like we needed time to review policy, we could have a special call work session, or I guess it'd have to be a special called meeting to address policy if we're going to take any action on that. You can think about that, look at the information that's presented, and then if we need to make that adjustment, we can do that. We could certainly do that, try to fit that, just that only business item for the night. We could certainly try to fit that in, but out of respect to staff, there may be some other items that we need to address that we could not put off. So consider that for our next meeting, okay? All right, any questions? Okay, if not, we'll consider that those items that we just covered when it comes up as consent as being exactly that, consented on, and we'll keep those in our agenda. Let's take just about 3 minutes, and that'll give everybody time to get set for our regular meeting. So we'll take a 3-minute break and then proceed.
You need a motion to adjourn.
Going on.
You need a motion to adjourn.
To call the June 13th meeting of the White County Board of Education to order. If you would, please rise, and Mr. Jason McDonald lead us in the pledge to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I'd like to welcome everyone to our meeting here this evening. Appreciate you coming, members of the public, our staff, administration, and then also those that may be joining us online. Our board meeting and work sessions are recorded, and they can be made available for viewing or online access through our website, whitecoastschools.net. All of the business conducted by the White County Board of Education is outlined and provided guidelines by the state of Tennessee. We do our business in public, and our information contained in this meeting is also available via link on our board meeting calendar. So if the public has interest in reviewing any of the information discussed tonight, that is the location which they could find those. So moving down, we want to next give the opportunity for a disclosure of conflict of interest. If any member of the board has a conflict of interest regarding any of the items that are on our proposed agenda, please let that be made known at this time.
Mr. Chairman, as I do each and every month, just want to make it public knowledge that there's nothing on the agenda tonight that is a conflict of interest, but just public knowledge that my wife is a teacher in the system. But the things that you'll hear me speak of tonight and the votes that I do tonight are in the best interest of this district and have no bearing on her and anything else. It's just for the best interest of the students and the faculty and staff of this district.
Thank you, Mr. McDonald.
Mr. Chairman, I'd say the same thing Mr. McDonald said, plus, my wife is a teacher, and I have other family members that are teachers in the school system, but every opinion I have is the best interest of the school as a whole, and nothing reflecting on them as individuals.
Thank you, Mr. Howard. It seems like the minutes note that Mr. McDonald and Mr. Howard both disclosed that they have spouses working for the system, but nothing on the proposed agenda would constitute a conflict of business we're considering tonight. So with that being said, we've been presented with the agenda for tonight's meeting just point out the items that have been added since this was published. In new business, we have 4 items: naming of facilities request, review of code of conduct, approval of a White County High School boys basketball travel trip, and then district fundraiser approvals, which we moved from our consent agenda item that we were reviewing in our work session because we ran up on the constraint of time. So with that being said, I would entertain a motion of approval for our agenda for tonight's meeting.
So moved.
A motion by Ms. Fowler. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Stone. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next item on our agenda is our consent. During our consent agenda and our work session, we board members did review the minutes of the 3 meetings that were held in May. We reviewed our budget amendments and transfers. We have policy report. We have 3 policies that will be coming up for second reading. That's policy 6200. Policy 4200, policy 4201. We also have the addition of a vacation day added to our published list, and so that's an update to policy 5310. 5310, it was recommended as this being time sensitive in nature that we'll forego second reading. So in our consent, it was consented that all 4 policies would pass under consent. Next, we reviewed our maintenance report, our school report, budget report, a TLN report, our monthly threat assessment report, personnel reports, and then the district fundraiser approvals was moved to the new business item, and we have approval of our 2024-2025 school board meeting schedule, and then the approval of the internal school audit by Mr. Dykes' firm. So there's a consent agenda. There is no discussion on the consent agenda, but unless the board member has any item that wish to pull out and be moved into new business, but otherwise I would entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to move item 6M, school board meeting schedule out for discussion.
For discussion?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so we'll be moving item M and all sub-items after that?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so item M has been moved from consent agenda to new business. Okay. All right, so I will look for a motion. Have a motion by Mr. McDonald. Have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Howard. That being said, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next item on our agenda will be our district update. Mr. Drumbarger.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To make sure I had the right one in front of me. Personnel report in your folders, employment transactions for the month are there. Currently, we have only one certified position to fill and a handful of staff positions. That puts us in an envious position compared to some neighboring districts and makes us better prepared for the upcoming school year. We're excited about some new talented teachers that we've hired and excited about our new school year. I'll be performing district level evaluations on administrators in the month of July. The administration is working to decipher the newest laws and requirements based on this year's new legislation. In the end, our third and fourth grade retention laws will not cause any serious overcrowding in our schools. On the safety front, new signage, window treatments, cameras, and locks are currently being installed at various schools and buildings across the district. Academically, summer school will continue through next week and has run well to this point. Financially, spoken financial director, Mr. Chad Markham, and about the recently approved school budget, and we're planning to schedule monthly budget meetings to address the concerns about rising costs and dwindling revenues, as we discussed at our last board meeting concerning the budgets. Some more to come on that front. Athletically, some fall sports or teams are already practicing, including football and girls soccer. The TSSAA dead period is June 24th through July 7th, at which time there are no athletic activities allowed for sports statewide. This will allow both our athletes and our playing services to get some much-needed rest. Building projects, the Bonnycroft project continues to march forward towards an early July completion date. Furniture will be installed soon, and the parking lots will be resurfaced as well. Bathroom renovations at the high school and the academic wing are going well. We received quotes to fix and update several road signs at various schools, and we've also received quotes for new awnings at WCHS in the car rider area. Summer is a busy time administratively, but it's an exciting time as we prepare for next year. But this completes a brief director's report. I'll be glad to answer any questions that you might have.
All right. Thank you, Mr. D, for that report. Board members have any questions, comments regarding our director's report?
I noticed, I guess you were talking about Bondycroft and how close they are there. I think one of our updates or something you sent out today, talking about the fire marshal is holding up on the access hallways getting into the new building. Is that something?
The last report, I think we've come to an agreement on that of being able to proceed there. There's just some questions. It's always an issue when you tie in from old buildings to new buildings, but I think we've come to an agreement there, and we're definitely moving forward.
Okay.
Other questions? Okay. Thank you for that update, Mr. Stromberger. So we'll move down to next agenda item, and item number 8, and that is approval of TSBA June policy recommendations. So I think just for the benefit of the public and anybody that maybe not be familiar with this, as the state goes through its legislative session that I think ended in April, they passed legislation, and any legislation that's been that would affect the school system or public education, those laws would be, that legislation would be made available at that time. And then through our support network of TSBA, their staff, whom we work with for helping us with policy and making sure that policy aligns with legislation, and we know when we are to, when legislation would impact existing policy that would need to be updated. They go through that process of dissecting that information, and they send us a recommended changes to policy, and that information was sent to the board on June 5th, which was just a little more than a week ago. Fairly extensive list of policies that will have to be updated. Some of those minor changes, some of them may be a little bit more in depth, but for the most part, these are policy changes that have been that will be required by statute. And with the policies that have been presented that we will have to work with, the total is, and I apologize, I should have had this number written down. There's approximately 20 policies that will go through process of an update in that policy, and then there will 2 policies will be added in our nomenclature of policy. It will be policy 4213 that deals with family life education, and then 4214, and that's the use of AI programs or the oversight of AI implementation. So out of this will be this exercise will be 2 new policies, 20 updates to existing policies. So the way with these policies that have been that are going to have to be updated, and on the recommendation of TSBA that providing us guidance on model policies, and based on the time-sensitive nature that most of these policies will need to be in place prior to the start of the school year in August, it's been recommended that we adopt these policies per the TSBA recommendation, and for first reading this evening. And then we will have more information and updates be provided to us by our director over the next couple of weeks, and then that will prepare us as we head into our June meeting, or excuse me, our July meeting, and then also into our summer law session that will go over these policies in detail in July. So it has been recommended that we adopt these policies on first reading. Then, board, we can consider it at our July meeting if we want to enact policy on second reading, or if we think we need to have a work session or a special called meeting to address any policies that we might have we need a little bit more time to digest and figure how we want those policies to be worded. So that's the recommendation, and so just want to make clear how we're addressing this item of business for us tonight. So I'll give opportunity for any questions.
I'm going to say I trust Emily and Ben at TSBA to go over these policies and give us their input on it, and I think they've done a good job at that. And I would make a motion we approve it on first reading.
So I have a motion on the floor to approve policies for TSBA's recommended policy updates and additions by Mr. McDonald. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Howard. Discussion?
I think it's a good plan, Mr. Chairman. We'll see these for the first reading and pass this tonight. We'll have our July month regular meeting, then we'll have summer law, and then we'll have a work session down there also. Then we can see at that time if we want to pull some out and go through them further.
I think that's good practice. We will have to make sure, that we spend the time between now and our July meeting in reviewing these. I'm sure Mr. Strombarger and for that matter TSBA and as again just note that Bennett and Camp. Bennett and DeCamp, our school board attorney, they provided us with their opinions on these legislative changes, and so we have that as a point of reference as well. So we have a couple different points of reference that we can look at, and but we will need to do some homework between now and next meeting. And during our work session period for our July meeting, I'll try to make sure that we're light on other things, and that way we can have the time we have, we can devote it for policy, if everybody's in agreement with that. So I have a motion by Mr. McDonald for approval of first reading. I have a second by Mr. Howard. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Motion passes. And Ms. Sims, for the record, just make sure we have on our reflected in our minutes. I should have done this before we took action on that, but it's policies. I'm going to write these down: 1501, 1800, 2403, 2806, 3202, 3205, 3400, 4201, 4213, 4214, 4301, 4403, 4600, 4603, 5307, 5701, 5802, 6203, 6300, 6309, 6316, 6409, and 64052. Board members, I'm sorry I did not reference those, but I know that you're seeing those in your packet, but I apologize for not referencing those prior to that action. Okay? All right. So motion passed. So we'll move on to the next item on our agenda. Next item on our agenda is we had a director's evaluation. That was performed in May. So I thank everyone for their support in providing input on that evaluation. We have the comments and you have the results as presented in your folder. The composite scores in the categories questions 1 through 23. Composite score was 3.23. Questions 25 through 35 was 3.05. Questions 36 through 44 was 3.11. Questions 45 through 48 was 3.21. and questions 49 through 52 was 3.00. So that is that's a result of the composite score evaluation. You also see in that the breakdown per questions on how those questions that on that evaluation was how they the responses filtered out, along with Mr. Stromberger's self-evaluation. So that is that's the result of those evaluations and the scores from the assessment that was done. So, any questions on those? Any comments?
I do just want to say that I'm so looking forward to a new model to be able to set forward, to be able to evaluate Mr. Stromberger by. I think this one is very, very antiquated, and we don't, you know, there's a lot of those items on there that we don't have any knowledge of as a board. So I'm looking forward to the fact that we can sit down and get a metric that we'll know more about, that we'll be more prepared to give an honest evaluation. Not saying this is not honest, but lots of great constructive criticism in there that I saw and read, and I know Mr. D will pull from those and will be a better director in the years to come.
Okay. Mr. McDonald, any other comments? So, my commitment to you, board members, that work on getting, because we did discuss this, so this brings closure to the action we took back earlier this year to address the director's contract, and we stated at that time that we wanted to look at new metrics for evaluation. And so I'll be working to get a draft copy of something that to get in front of you, as well as Mr. Stromberger. That is the evaluation matrix is not just is something that is developed collectively between ourselves as a board and our director. So we'll work on that to get something in place that does focus on maybe more objective metrics than and eliminate some subjective. As you're correct, Mr. McDonald, we don't necessarily see all the information necessary to make a constructive constructive evaluation. Okay. Any other comments on the results? We probably should take action just to approve this this evaluation. So I entertain a motion for approval of the director's evaluation as for 2023-2024 as presented.
So moved.
I have a motion by Mr. McDonald. Have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Fowler. Discussion? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next item on our agenda is public comment. We did not have anyone signing up for public comment to be recognized for the board tonight for public comment. So that moves us into agenda item number 11. That's new business. Naming facilities request and of the BOE boardroom, and that's referencing policy 3210. So Mr. McDonald asked for that to be on the agenda tonight. I failed to get it in on first draft, but that's the reason why it showed up under new business. But Mr. McDonald, I'd like to let you speak to that.
Yeah, I would just I would like to see us honor a couple of gentlemen who gave a lot to this school system. Did a little research on Mr. Robinson and Mr. Richard McBride. I would love to see us name this boardroom after those two gentlemen who died while serving this school district. Mr. McBride served, I think he had just finished his 12th year, and Mr. Robinson died during his current term, 24 years and 8 months. So a lot of time given, a lot of the things that are going on in our system right now are a direct reflect of what those gentlemen, their vision and things that they saw. So I would just like to see us honor them in a way to name this boardroom after them. So I would probably put that in the form of a motion to name the DOE boardroom here at the central office after Mr. Kenneth Robinson and Mr. Richard McBride. And then let's try to have some kind of ceremony to bring their families in to honor them in that way.
Okay, I have a motion by board member. Do I have a second?
What are we gonna do, like Robinson, McBride?
I just think you use their both name, you know, Kenneth Robinson
name?
and Richard McBride Memorial Boardroom.
Yep, I'll second.
Okay, a motion and a second. So, board members, discussion?
I think we could maybe get the welding class or something to do some kind of nice sign to go on the wall behind us, like they've done in so many different places. So just those two men meant a lot to me, and just like to honor them in that way.
So appreciate that recommendation, Mr. McDonald. They did serve our community well, and their hearts were certainly in for the betterment of providing quality education to our community. Other comments?
I mean, well, you want to play on words like McRobinson to be on?
Yeah, I was gonna.
I just like to,
Too close to the McReal?
yeah, I just like to see their full names out there.
So, just since we brought it up, policy 3210 says facilities of the school system shall be named through board action and upon the following criteria. Schools shall not be named for living persons except for those who have rendered exemplary service to public education as recognized and attested by a vote of a board. Two schools in the system should not be given the same name. Care should be taken to avoid those similar names. Schools shall be named for area community. Let me just go through these points. Okay, so a single building on campus with multiple buildings or a specific area on the campus may be named for a living person provided he and she has made an outstanding contribution to that school. The name of such building or specific area shall not be supplanted by the facility's name. So that would be, we would be looking at on policy 3210, item 4, and so that's where we would state our authority to do that. So we have a motion and a second, and everybody's comfortable with what how we're doing in far as this naming quest. Okay, then I will take vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, Mr. McDonald, for remembering two outstanding gentlemen. Next item in our new business is review of code of conduct. This, if I'm not mistaken, is also tied to policy, an update, a new policy. Is that a new policy?
It is a new policy, and if you like, this came from Attorney Chuck Cagle, who represents TOS in about 70 public school districts in Tennessee. He drafted this and submitted it for your recommendation. Obviously, this would be on first reading tonight for your consideration. We would have to amend it to meet our needs, but there is legislation now that dictates how families, volunteers, and visitors to our schools should conduct themselves on campus.
So this is not. So this is, I miscounted. This would be there would be 3 new policies that we'd be considering, and for approval. This is the third. So with that saying, this is the language. We would put policy in there that our policy would state that we will have code of conduct for families, volunteers, and visitors on school properties. And this what's been presented to you tonight has been drafted up as the the policy, the code of conduct that would then be posted in the various facilities. Is that correct?
Yes, I think I'm going to make a correction there. We actually have the Visitors to School Code of Conduct policy, which is 1501. I believe this would be set forth as a procedure accompanying that particular policy. So that's the way I would recommend that it be adopted this evening, and we'll have the opportunity to bring this back before the board in July with clarification. Again, I just received this week as an example from TOS. So I think I'd recommend this tonight as a procedure to be adopted, and then again we'll have the opportunity to see it again in July for further study.
Okay.
Knowing Chuck Cagle and his affiliation with TSBA, I can see TSBA probably adopting this as their model policy to replace what's in 1501 would be my, just knowing how he works with them and how he's well thought of, and the language is spot on. So I'm in agreement with that, procedural wise now, until we know more.
Okay. Board members to my left, do y'all have any questions, comments on this? So one question I would have that this is, if this is more procedural in nature, what we're doing is, as board, you're getting our approval on the language that's being presented, because I mean typically we don't approve your procedures, we approve your policy.
Well, I think the new language in the law says that the board has to adopt a code of conduct. So, we'll be putting it in as a procedure, but the board has to adopt a code of conduct according to the new policy.
So,
New law.
This is a little bit different. It's not part of the policy. Will state that we're gonna address, get for final approval. The policy will state that we have to have a code of conduct. That's what will be in the policy, and so therefore, then this actually falls on us to approve the actual code. Just want to make sure we all have that clear as far as what this item of business is.
Mr. Chairman, this has been handed down from the state, this one of the new rules, regulations, that our laws that they pass, that we implement a code. And I'm all in favor that any visitor in their school system should handle themselves responsibly and maturely, and with respect to the facilities. Like we're required to do that for them, so they should be required also. I have a question, and I'm trying to read through this and see also, is this or any in our policy has any restriction on the number of adults that could attend a meeting per student?
No, I don't think there's any limitation to that.
So could a school adopt that? An individual school adopt that if we didn't adopt it? If the board
To limit the number of
adults?
to what kind of meeting?
Well, to a function.
Yes, I mean, obviously there's fire marshal restrictions and things, but yeah, we limit those for safety and for just feasibility. I know just graduation comes to mind when we have to move it inside. I mean, there's just only so many seats that we can have, so we limit the number. We try to provide streaming services so they can see it outside, but that's an instance where we would limit outside involvement to a certain number.
Is there any wording to that hierarchy system, parents, grandparents, or?
I think that would be, it's in procedures. I mean, it would be in procedures. It wouldn't be a policy, but it would be a procedure, because tomorrow a school may, have a flower festival that we don't know about, so they would come up with their own school procedures on that. But the object is not to limit people, it's to provide as many people in as we safely can, and still, have the event, whatever it is, in a safe manner.
Very well put. Thank you.
All right, so board members, so what we're considering then is adopting this language as our statement, as our code of conduct for the district for visitors that are visiting our campus. So that's been presented to us. So we would be we'll be approving this as our language, as our code of conduct. And this would not require a second reading. This would be something that we would adopt and it would go into effect right now. This is not policy. So I would entertain, with that being said, I would entertain a motion of approving the code of conduct for family volunteers and visitors for our district as presented.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Howard. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. McDonald. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. All right, next item on our agenda is a field trip request form from White County basketball team. Coach Mitchell, with the intent of going for basketball tournament in Sevierville, Tennessee, December 27th through the 30th. And that information, overnight request has been made for our approval. So any questions on that?
Motion to approve.
Okay, I have a motion for approval. Have a second, Ms. Fowler. Motion by Mr. McDonald, second by Ms. Fowler. Any other questions or comments? Discussion. Okay, hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. All right, next item on our agenda, this new business item is district fundraiser approvals. So, board members, as you saw in your packet, there was we have hit the fundraiser approval time, and so a lengthy list of those fundraisers were included in your packet for being requested for approval. So, Mr. Strawberger, I'd like for you to speak to that. Of course, all these fundraising requests come to the administrator and then they come to you. And so by the time they get to us, they have been, the request has been reviewed and were submitted for approval at the administrative level at the school, and then it has been sent to our director for review and approval for recommendation for approval by our director. So it comes to us having been reviewed on 2 occasions. Start, I guess, the question I would ask: is there any policies? Or any fundraising requests that were presented that you are still considering or still have questions on?
No, board members, I would go through all of these. There's nothing that stood out as odd or out of the ordinary. I think the fundraising, online fundraising fundraiser that we talked about with girls soccer came to question a little bit last month. But we have done that in the past. I think softball has done that in the past and been very successful with it. It's pretty much you just log in and send them some money, and there's nothing being, no transaction. There's no items being sold or transacted. So that was a little out of the ordinary, but we have done that in the past. I want you to know I tried to really, as director, oversee that. We truly work hard to make sure we're respecting the community. That was something the board for years has tried to protect our community. We only have so many businesses in our community, and they just get hit over and over and over. So we've tried to make sure that we're spreading the wealth, so to speak, as far as that goes, and respecting our community in that regard. In the elementary school, I see things that are very common, and we try and restrict how many that they do as a school, and certainly restrict we really try and eliminate any door-to-door at any level, but certainly at the elementary level. So I feel confident those that we've brought forth, although they're numerous, they are within the limits of what we've done in the past. You will see many more at the middle school and high school level. They just have more clubs and more sports and more need, and so you'll see more there. But we also work with our athletic director to make sure that we're meeting most of our needs through our fundraising that the board provides, through the funding that the board provides, and then these fundraisers cover some of the wants that they need, to additional equipment and uniforms and things like that are above and beyond. So there's a lot of them. There's no denying that, but we do work hard to try and at least I always try and keep the community in mind to make sure that we're not overburdening our community and asking the same folks for money time and time again. But it does cost a lot of money for these programs. It's very expensive to run the programs. I think the board gives close to $100,000 just to athletics at the middle school and high school, just right off the top, just to have programs. And then they raise money through signage and bus signage and some of these programs as well. So it's a lot, but we've tried to do a good job of listening on that. But again, to your point, Mr. Chairman, there's nothing that I see in here that we haven't done before that wouldn't be acceptable in the eyes of the board.
Just in the elementary side, there's 175 pages of fundraisers.
No, the 175, some of that's high school.
Is that
Yes,
mixed
it
in there
is.
too? I mean, I read
Yeah.
through most of
Yeah,
them.
elementary schools, not very many at all. Some of them,
Riveting
they're
reading.
getting away from smart cards, which used to be the
Yes.
staple, but they're just not as widely used anymore. And so they're branching out in some other areas. But we do restrict them primarily to one school-wide fundraiser for elementary school, one for their PTO, with a few exceptions. They might have some other things. Now, they can do some things that are in-house, like bake sales and art sales and things like that, where they're not out asking the community, people are just coming to them and doing some small things. But anything where they're going out in the community and asking for funding has to be approved by the board, and we try to restrict that. The elementary schools are in pretty tight rein, but there's just, and not that the middle schools aren't, it's just in high school, they just have more clubs and more sports teams that they have to support. So they're naturally they're going to have more, just Project Graduation has several, because it takes lots and lots of fundraising to make that happen each time. So again, they're in line with what we've seen in the past. There's nothing as far as the fundraisers themselves that jump out as a red flag. There were some that I sent back, and there were some that have already been have been denied. But I feel confident presenting these to you tonight, and but always open to other ways that we can reduce the number and the burden.
Thank you.
I got some stuff to say. So last fall, I know me and Mr. Hickey, which is not here tonight, talked about how some businesses from the community had expressed their concern how they get hit so much. So I wrote down some of the ones about selling advertisements, and I feel like there's quite a few. So one, and I'm not sure what the esports is for the middle school for the media guide. I don't know.
Esports team?
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
for the media guide, it's $200 for one media guide per business, $500 for all 3 media guides. Now, I don't know what the media guide is.
Yeah, but the media guide itself, is that the media guide at the high school?
It had it under the middle school.
No, it would be something that the esports team would be doing by themselves.
Okay.
I'll have to look at it.
So that's asking businesses right there for advertisements. And then you've got the high school boys and girls basketball. And by no means am I against this, because let me say, my children played, and I was we had to raise money, and I get it. But when businesses have come to us and expressed their concern because they're getting hit so much, and then so the high school boys and girls basketball team is wanting to sell advertisements for the video board. So do we not already have stuff on the video board, or they just?
Well, when we I think the board approved to install that at once upon a time, and that was the way that it was paid for, was it was going to be paid by the endorsement, by the supporters that, put it up there. So
Which I think, I think, and I didn't write it, it's on page 73, and I could go back and look to see what they said it was for. Because it said it would be sold by coaches and exactly what it was for, and I can go look and see, I wrote my page number down.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, that's how they put up the video board. Was
Right.
The basketball coaches said that they had secured donations from, video ads that they were going to
Yes.
put on the board, then that would help pay for the payments on the actually
Right,
installing the board. So.
Right, so, but then you've got the and love my football, but, so the quarterback club has the Jumbotron advertisement sales plus the field signs. So if you look at how many businesses we're hitting, then our middle school team is wanting to sell field signs. I just feel like that's an excessive amount, because
Yeah.
we don't have a lot of businesses in this town, and money's tight right now for everybody.
Yeah, I agree. I think, so what I would say to that is, in the past, football and basketball have been outside of the box a little bit. They've been free to do a little bit more because they generate revenue. And, they sell tickets. People come watch those games. And I'm a soccer guy, so I'm not trying to offend anybody because not a lot of people come to the soccer games. But they're good. You should. But my point,
Yes.
but my point being is that they generate money, and so they've been able, because they make money and support their programs more so than the other programs do, they've had a little more leeway to go out and do some of that. You've mentioned basketball and football, and they have been outside of that. Again, the football jumbotron was installed. It was paid for by private investors.
Yes.
But in order to recoup the money and pay the private investors back, they have to sell ads to
Yeah,
make the
'cause
money and make the
somebody
payment.
had actually told me that over the next, I don't remember, 2 or 3 years, they're giving money, and that's what's gonna pay for the
Right.
jumbotron.
So, but my point is that because basketball and football are out there, I don't want to say monopolizing, but really getting the lion's share of those advertisements, it makes it difficult for a soccer team to go out there and say, hey, can we sell a bus ad?
Or a
You know,
baseball team.
Or a
and
baseball
that's-
team,
that's what
exactly.
I'm saying.
And so.
Or tennis, or.
Exactly.
Yes.
It's what we call the minor
Golf, or-
sports or the non-revenue generating sports. And so, but to your point is that's why they're out there selling Boston butts, and that's why they're out there selling all these other things, is because some of the advertisement money has already been taken up by some of those others.
Yes.
The bus signage that we do is designed, all of that money goes to the non-revenue generating sports. So every one of those bus signs that we sell at $500 a piece, that money is going and spread out, kind of like revenue sharing for all the tennis and soccer and baseball and all those sports that don't generate funding to support the program. So, but at the same time, to your point, every time an ad goes up there, it's a bus sign that the tennis team doesn't get to sell. So that is a balance there. That is something we're trying to be mindful of, but that is.
And I get that they're revenue generating, but do they not get the money from the gate sales?
They do. Not all, but of course they have a lot of expense too. I mean, their equipment's much higher,
Oh,
their
no,
officials
I mean,
much
I
higher.
get you. Right.
Yes. So, yeah, they do, but it takes a lot more to run those programs. When you outfit 100 football players at,
Equipment and resources, that's what I'm saying. See,
Yeah.
so they're not paying for it, they're paying for equipment and stuff. I just feel like
You're not wrong. I agree, and that's
I just feel
why.
like it's a lot, and if you've got this many, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hidden businesses, and now the football's not doing the Boston butt sales.
Well, what we also did with the bus signage is when you bought a bus sign, you also get a "We Support Warrior Athletic" sign to put in your front yard that says "Leave me alone." It means I gave and I helped and I love you, but you can't
Yeah.
keep coming back here every day and asking me for more money. And certainly anybody that wants to contribute more can, but we did that for that reason, because we want to be able to say that, because we understand businesses are going to be tapped out
Yeah.
at some point. And,
And they feel obligated.
Sure, yeah. And I've heard it also, I've heard the meals. I've heard, some schools are feeding people during Teacher Appreciation Week every meal. That's great, but they don't want to say no, and we appreciate our teachers, but maybe just one meal a week, that would have been enough to say, hey, we appreciate you, because, that's a lot to ask of a business in,
Yeah.
in Sparta to do. And then not every school got that privilege. And so, and then the next time that small school says, hey, could you help us with a meal? They're going to say, well, I did 5 meals with that school,
Yeah.
So I hear you as far as spreading the wealth. That's something we are definitely in tune with, and I want to protect.
It just kind of bothers me some. I guess because football's going after them. They're going after for the jumbotron and the field signs, and football's near and dear to my heart
Yeah.
in this town. I mean, we all know my play, but I mean, I love it. But then you've got the businesses saying, so I wish Adam was here tonight. But then you got the businesses coming back and saying we're getting hounded.
Yeah, you're not wrong, but I don't. Not stepping on toes, but I mean, the board approved to put up those jumbotrons, and now,
Well, I wasn't here.
and now it's time to, kind of pay the piper, so to speak. But it is difficult if the bowling team can't sell an ad because because, you know, the football team has got all of the business and money. So,
Or
yeah.
basketball.
Exactly,
I mean, I
basketball,
get it.
yeah, or soccer, whoever it may
Yes,
be,
yes.
whoever's monopolizing that funding. So it's definitely a concern, and one I'm open to discussing more. Like I said, nothing that I see that's being presented tonight is outside of the box that I haven't seen before. But there might be a number that needs to be looked at and reduced moving
Yeah.
forward.
Oh, yeah, they're not outside the box. I mean, I know these was around other than the Jumbotron, but, I mean, because I know we've had the field signs forever. I just was going back to that conversation we had last fall at one of our meetings.
Well, to your point, one of them that was requested was signage at the field at the middle school. Now, I denied that, one, because I'm kind of a purist and I want that to stay looking clean and pretty, and I just don't want a bunch of signage kind of tarnishing in that look. But secondly, that's why we're selling the bus signs. And if you sell all the signs on the field, then that's a bus sign. And so let's say, I won't throw anybody under the bus, but if the soccer team sells a sign, now that's a bus sign that you can't sell, and that hurt the softball team.
Yeah.
Because they don't get that money. So, we did deny some for those reasons. I am certainly trying to respect our community and have a lot of respect for our community and our business owners, and we've got some improvement to do there for sure to police that.
Mr. Drummer, is there a limit on, like, how many each sport can do? Are they limited to like one fundraiser, or they can do as many, or?
They're not, but if we have multiples, we do talk with them. The coach and the athletic director talk to try and cut that number down, and then we try and be specific. We send several back if they just say, we're raising money as much as we can. I said, that's not an answer. You have to send back how much you're actually trying to generate and for what. If you're trying to raise a lot of money, what are you trying to, specifically, do you need uniforms? Do you need baseball bats? We've tried to be more specific there. Because we want to say to our community, why are we raising it? Why do they need this money? Again, we do, especially with the non-revenue generating sports, we try as a district to provide their needs. We pay for their buses, or we pay for the officials, but their wants, if they need a new batting screen or they want some new fancy piece of technology, that's something that they'd be raising money for as far as their wants go.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to say also that I compliment our community, our parents, all the business and everything, because as a county, we compete statewide, nationwide, with much larger metropolitan areas that we shouldn't compete with as far as their resources compared to ours. But just complimenting our parents for them putting out for the extra practices and travel expenses and travel ball, and it's amazing. To everyone's testimony that's had a child playing sport. And we've got up and coming sports that used to, because football and basketball was king and queen, and rightfully so. And I hope they continue their quest to be king and queen, but archery, golf, soccer, a lot of
Bowling, fishing.
a lot of these sports that weren't around when I was in high school, only for large Nashville, Knoxville, Memphis areas, now we're competing with. And so, rightfully so. I don't know what type of committee needs to be organized to see if we can disperse revenue or not make a bigger burden on some of our businesses. One thing that I was asked here a while back was, there's some real winners out there when you get 2-for-1 pizzas at a certain place, or 2-for-1 Sonics, or 2-for-1, or big discounts on those. There's some real winners. And is there a rotation that our elementary schools can get on to make sure that one doesn't get it every year? And I know that may not seem fair, but in the big scheme of things, it is fair.
Yeah,
to see if we can do
that's
that.
definitely something we can look at. Some of them, like I said, we were doing all smart cards for elementary schools, and that was a problem because we had some other groups at middle school and high school that started doing smart cards. And I said, that's not fair. That's all they get to do, so you can't do that. So we've had to police a little bit of that. But to your point, yes, we do some of that in athletics already. We have some of that revenue sharing money. Like I said, when we generate from bus signs, the athletic director will say, okay, softball needs some help with uniforms this year, but next year it's going to be soccer, so we're going to shift a little more extra money to them to help them so that they don't have to go out and create another fundraiser to raise for uniforms that year. So we've tried to move that money around. We're doing a lot of things. The money, I take the athletic complex at the middle school, that is a revenue sharing issue. Everybody has to run the concession stand, but all the money goes back into the fields. That's how we pay for the fertilizer and the sand and the seed and all the care and some of the other expenses of that facility. So we're trying to do a lot to generate our own money so we don't overburden the public. But it does cost a lot of money to have these programs and sustain them. But
And I love her sports.
Yeah.
I love her band.
Yeah.
All the above, all
Yeah.
the above. And I'm sure I left something out that somebody will call me before I get home and say, why didn't you mention this sport? So, sorry, I love them
no,
all.
all your points are well taken, and I'm on the same page. I have a real burden for, I'm a former coach. I mean, I guess I coached this year, so I'm a current coach. But I'm certainly burdened as a director to make sure we're not overburdening our community. I hear some of those things too, and I'll be working with, our principals, administrators, and certainly our coaches and our AD to see what we can do to lessen that burden, because it's hard on businesses. They want to help. They don't want to tell us no, but it puts them in a bad spot.
I'm going to say this, now, like you say, a few years ago, you had basketball or football, and that was about it. Any child that wants to participate in some kind of sport, there's a sport out there. Like I said, I've never seen so many. There's fishing, there's bowling, there's golf, there's wrestling, there's archery, there's, all kinds. In which I think that's great to get a student involved. That a lot of times that keeps them out of trouble and stuff. But like you say, if each one of them has got to raise money, we've got to come up with some kind of system. Because, like you say, we've probably got 20 more sports than we did 10 years ago.
One thing I noticed, in coaching, a lot of teams we play, they don't run buses, like we do. They show up and their parents drive. I don't want to do that, because now you're just asking the community to do more. And now I'm asking you to drive to Tullahoma every night, and with the gas tank. And so, I feel like so but I see a lot of school systems doing that to try and save money to put it back in their athletic programs by not running buses. But we're not there. I'm not there yet, but I am there with trying to protect our community. I hear you loud and clear, and I'm interested in looking at ways to do that more.
Mr. Howard, I think to answer your question on the rotation for that one particular slice of the price. So Finley did it first year, Northfield did it last year. This year, Woodland Park has it.
Yes.
So I think it must be on a rotation. I've bought it every year, and those are the greatest things. That's the greatest fundraiser ever.
I will follow up on that for sure.
Well, I was just looking at it right here.
As far as the signs and the ads go for the businesses, why, maybe we let basketball have it one year and football the next, but football's got the Jumbotron and the field signs. That's double. That's a lot.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
And like I said, in the past, football and basketball have been outside of our restrictive box
Yes.
because they raise money
Yeah.
and they make money, but the other ones don't, and so we've been kind of just having to really keep them in boxes. It sounds kind of backwards, but we have to make sure they're not doing too much to try and raise that money. We need to support. I say we as a district
Yes.
are supporting those non-revenue generating sports more than we are. We're not supporting football and basketball. They're generating their own.
But I think when I was in the football with the quarterback club, we raised some good money at the barbecue and auction. I don't think that's done as much anymore.
Well,
I think it's
another
half.
thing, when my son played, they had like those jamborees or, the tournaments and stuff.
Yes.
I know that there's a lot of effort and trouble on the coach's part and stuff, but they bring a lot of revenue in, and I don't think we have as many of them.
Well, yeah, and TWSAA restricts how many of those you can do and how many of them actually get counted as a game, so to speak, and so you're really limited to what you can do, but you can do some of that. But I hear you loud and clear. It is a concern of mine. I know I helped with soccer this year, and so we were very careful, not only that we weren't doing too many, but we're not doing the same one.
Yes.
We don't want to do the same fundraiser that baseball's doing a month
I know, that's
earlier.
what I was looking
And
at,
so
yeah.
we try and we are paying a lot of attention. I think you can tell from this conversation, we are paying a lot of attention to it, but certainly hear your concerns and want to pay some more attention to try and make it better.
Good discussion on that, board members, and obviously there are thoughts there that we can consider. I want us to address that in future meeting. please let me know. But we have been asked to take action on approval of district fundraisers. You have heard from our director that it's gone through the proper channels for review and approval. And so it comes to us for final approval. So this time I would entertain a motion to approve the district fundraisers as presented.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Mr. Howard. Do I have a second?
I'll say it.
Second by Mr. McDonald. Discussion about specific items. Okay, hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next is approval of the 24-25 school board meeting schedule. And that's pull that out of our consent. Mr. Howard. So, Mr. Howard, I give you the opportunity to speak to that since you had requests and for further discussion on that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As I looked at this, and I understand it right here, that our school board meeting schedule, they're all scheduled this coming year for the Board of Education. And I would hope that the board would help me rectify this right here, because I enjoy going to our elementary, middle school, high school, and seeing their facilities and walking in and reconnecting. And I don't know what the issue was that brought it up to this right here, and I would love to entertain any motion where we can get them back to where we can visit. and so I'd like to have some discussion on that. I know for a fact that it's hard on the teachers sometimes, and so if we could eliminate any involvement from the teachers, from them feeding us, from them having to highlight their school, or if that's something they want to do, I just feel like it's important to us and important to the community that we have it at least once a year at those locations, because this may be convenient for some people, but driving here every time that somebody wants to come from Eastland or Castle or Pondicroft or even towards Northfield, that could be just that extra little thing right there that they said, no, I'm just going to not do it. They're not going to hear my input on this right here. So I think it's really important that we get this changed, and whatever it takes for us to do it, I'd just like to have that discussion from everybody.
So, Mr. Howard, one of those things, and appreciate you making that. It is changed from what we've done in the past. But in the past, one of the things we're trying to provide community is the ability to have these meetings live streamed, and technology to make that happen is it's very involved. And know from our Warrior Media, who Ms. Allen, Ms. Russ, to coordinate that and try to put that technology together for us to be off-site. I know it's been very cumbersome for them. And we do lose the fact of not having the exposure to the community. But if we want to continue to provide if we want to be considerate of the entire process and those that for putting this meeting together, I think we need to be mindful of the effort that was going into doing those things off-site. And I think that's the reason why it was recommended that we do it here out of just the fact of trying to get something where we could still provide that access to the public, but give them a different opportunity to view our meetings. But just trying to coordinate just the technology of moving that around. Mr. Drombarger, you can speak to that from your perspective.
Yeah, so, I put forth this as a proposal tonight, and certainly we'll do whatever the board would like to do. I mean, first of all, I would say, the board, you're welcome to visit the schools anytime. It doesn't have to be just on a board meeting night. And, but I hear from principals, they're not going to say this to you or publicly, but it's one more event for them to do. It's very crowded in some of their spaces. Some of the schools don't have very much space to have these meetings, and if we have a really exciting meeting one night, we have lots of people there, it's hard to fit everybody in there. There are the logistics of the live streaming, we'd like to get it where it's more plug and play, where we can come in here and have it set up, because we're asking someone to spend a lot of time on those evenings and put that together. Food, they feel obligated to feed you all, and so that's an extra expense for the school. You know, I've been there with some schools, they only, it's a smaller school, so it takes everybody, all hands on deck, and it's a long day for them to be there 12, 14 hours when their teachers are there. You know, and you know, it's not a reason, but not many other school districts do that. You know, they'll invite Cassville to come here one night, or they invite Doyle to come here one night, and you can still recognize the schools that way. So, you know, I'm open to whatever the board wants to do, but those were some of the reasons why, you know, I'm hearing from the administrators that, you know, it's difficult to pull off. You know, now it's just different from where it was, and you know, for that reason. So, you know, people can still voice their concerns and come here, but they can reach out to their board members anytime. They don't have to wait till a board meeting to do that. But that really comes to the logistics and the extra work that's going on that we're asking people to stay late and do, and the expense and time, and certainly the logistics of doing it, the live streaming. So I'm open to whatever the board would like to do. I get it. I've been a part of that as a principal and now as a director, and I love going to the schools too. But I think we can go to the schools other times. And so this is just the feedback I was getting, you know, from my administrators. There's no one there. If you ask them, they're going to say, we love when the board comes. It's fantastic. But it is one more thing that they do love seeing you all. But it is one more thing for them, one more event for them to put on. And it's taxing. So that's why this recommendation come forth. But I'll be glad to do whatever the board's will is.
Comment. Other discussion?
I also do like to go to the other schools, and like you say, that may be the only time I go to Bondycroft or Northfield or something like that, which I do like, but like you say, I don't want to tax the administration of school any further. But if we could forego a lot of the formalities and just show up, and they don't have to feed us, and they don't have to do this and that. But then I do realize that the live streaming is probably a lot of work moving them, because we don't have I guess you'd say, a portable type system that's kind of hard to do. But it's whatever the rest of the board feels best.
And we want that, to that point, we want that to be quality. We've invested in, you know, better microphones and cameras, and, you know, it can be done on a cell phone with Facebook Live, but we've also gotten complaints that I couldn't hear and I couldn't see and it wasn't pointed in the right. So, you know, if we're going to do that, we want to do that well, and that's why we've invested in that time. But just speaking to that point.
Mr. Chairman, not to slow anybody down or not speed anything up, time is of the essence here too. Just, I will make a motion that we return back to visiting our schedule of schools with our school board meetings with no extra criteria necessary from the teachers, from the administrator, as far as feeding us or making a to-do over us, just except providing a room. So I'm going to make that motion and see where it goes.
All right, so
I'll second that.
all right, I have a motion and a second to return for is it fiscal year 25? Or is it
Fiscal 25, yeah.
All right, so we're talking about fiscal year 25 that'll start July 1st, 2024. Talking about our meeting schedule, it has been, have a motion and a second to schedule visits to the schools in the district. And I'm not sure how we can, I think, let's say, return to the districts. I think don't let me put words in your mouth, but what you're saying is return to the districts, but with no expectations of meals or any things of that source. Will we still live stream?
Sure.
Okay.
Is the equipment that we see in the back of the room, is that the equipment that goes each and every time?
Yes,
And
bags you see me haul in and out.
3 bags you see hauling in and out.
These microphones and cables.
Okay.
is there an easier way to do it with less equipment?
We can look at other ways, but I mean, we've purchased this for this purpose. We had some other equipment that didn't work as well, and we had to make changes to go to this route, but that's where we are.
Well, I don't want to make it harder on them, but I just didn't know if there was a way we could ease it on them too.
Yep.
So,
Well, I just like to say, I kind of get what we're doing because, I mean, I know when we was at Bondi Crawl, you know, the teachers was there, they had cooked, and they had to clean up, they had to wait for us to get out of there, and some of them lived off the mountain out by me. So, I mean, and I get it, which I've talked to a few people that, and I mean, I get it, I see both ways, so,
And we also have sometimes internet issues in those locations.
I've had internet issues tonight.
Yeah.
It's been going offline.
There was an ENA outage earlier, it's about 40 minutes, and we're still having some late.
Yeah, I'm like,
I've turned
man, I'm
it into-
losing it.
It's being worked on.
You know, so, I mean, and I enjoy getting to go to each school to see them because, but I don't know, we can go anytime, but.
Well,
But do we?
in all
Yeah.
fairness, sometimes I get dinged on my evaluation because I don't listen to the community. I'm listening to my communities, and they're telling me that it's a little bit of a burden sometimes, but not so much they're not willing to do it. I don't want to
Yes.
get the idea that they don't want you all there, and they do. They love having you all there, but it takes a lot logistically, and so that's where this came from. But I'm certainly open to, like I said, whatever the board wants to do, we can make the adjustment.
so we
Well, I
have,
was gonna say, could we do a poll, but they don't wanna do that. The schools, I get it, you know.
I just want to make sure, just remember, we're in discussion, we have a motion and a second to return to the rotation of the school schedule. I just want to make sure that we're clear on that. That's the motion on. So any more discussion about that?
I will just say that if this wouldn't start next month, and it probably wouldn't even start till September, we usually let them get into the school year. So I can bring forth, we could approve, if you approve the schedule tonight, which I'd like to do to make sure we have July's meeting approved, the actual days, then I would have time to bring forth in July the actual list of schools, because we rotate it so that if you were last, you jump, you rotate, you go
I'll go
first next time. So yeah, it rotates through. So I would have that for the July meeting, but I'd like to approve the July meeting tonight.
Mr. Chairman, once again, I think everybody's spoken right here. I respect the logistics of it too, with the new equipment that we're wanting to highlight. And, but my motion was also to take all the restrictions, or excuse me, all the requirements off of the teachers to feed us and to entertain us as far as highlight, unless they want to, just the room and everything else. But I'd just like to be able to visit there. And there could be someone in the community that didn't have access to our streaming that wanted to do that. I know that would be minimal, but there's a possibility.
There's still a lot of people,
So-
I mean, the elderly people, but and I know this is maybe off the side, I would like to see the kids come back in, because I know they used to, and I just feel like that is so big for some of the kids to come in. I think that's a big deal to them.
Well, that's why I've offered a theme, and because it can
Yeah.
include kids and students in that. It can include staff.
Yeah.
In a myriad of different ways. So.
All right. So we're having all right, so what's before us? I want to try to make sure we get this. What's before us is a meeting schedule that includes all meetings being here at the Board of Education. And Mr. Howard, you made the motion that you want to return to the school rotation. So your motion is, so I'm just want to make sure, because we want to get the dates set. So your motion would be the date schedule would remain as is,
The way it's posted here.
and then the
I'm
location,
dead.
and
So,
the, pardon? but you're approving the schedule with the school rotation back for the location,
Exactly.
correct?
Exactly.
And that was what your second is. So, but we
Go through March.
We don't have the rotation tonight, if we do that, as far as what schools we would go through, the order, so the location would be to be determined, because we would need to figure out what order we would go if we went back in.
So, just to make my understanding, May, June, July, and August are gonna be here anyway.
Yes, correct.
So our first one would not be in September until the school, if we go back into the schools.
Correct.
Okay.
Couldn't we, at that, later in August or something, decide which way we're gonna go? Because we just want to do the dates, right?
I think so. So I'd like to make a motion that we amend the schedule for September, October, November, December, January, February, March, and April to be TBD, to be determined, till we get the school rotation schedule back in. And then we would be approving a schedule that would have our BOE dates that are the same until we would get the rotation in place. So that would be a motion I would make.
I would second that,
Okay?
to come back and
I'm
set
trying to
those locations later.
Okay, so that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying
That
to
way we can
accommodate
get
the
this passed
location.
tonight with the
Okay.
dates. and-
So motion to change the location, September, October, November, December, January, February, March, and April to TBD. So have a motion and
Second.
had a second.
You're going to have to vote on
We
that
need
and
to
then go
vote-
back
we
and
need to
vote on the
We need
original
to vote on
motion.
that, correct.
Okay.
So all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed?
Which one was it? Yours or his?
That was
It's
it.
His
my
amendment.
amended.
Okay.
Now we're gonna go back
All
and
right,
vote
so
on
now
this.
we're going to go back and vote on the motion to approve the schedule as amended, with July, August, May, and June being at Board of Education, August through April being TBD, and then we would look at school rotation at our next meeting.
September through April, right?
I'm sorry, yes, September,
Okay.
correct. Okay, so, all right, so understand where we're at on that? Okay, all those in favor of approving the school board meeting schedule for fiscal year 2025, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. All right, that brings us to the final items on our agenda. Is old business. There are no items in old business, and brings to chairman's comments. Next board meeting will be July 7th, 2024, here at the Board of Education. Our work session will begin at 5:00 p.m. Our board meeting will be at 6. Board
The
members.
11th, not the 7th.
The 11th, July 11th, 2024, here at the Board of Education. Our work session will be at 5, and our board meeting will be at 6. Board members, a reminder that TSB Summer Law Conference will be July 19th through 20th at the Park Vista Hotel in Gatlinburg, and we will follow that up with a retreat on July 20th in Gatlinburg, with the location to be determined at our July meeting.
That will be at the Park Vista. We secured that yesterday or day before, and we'll get that on the website, so it'll be public.
Okay, so the location for the retreat that we plan to have after the law conference will be at the Park Vista Hotel. So thank you for securing that. So that's all. Yes, sir.
Will we be spending the night at Park Vista on the?
No, sir, we'll be
Instead of
doing the
Bearskin?
meeting at Park Vista, but staying at the Bear, or whatever, Bearskin Lodge. Yes, we have an additional night where we'll be the whole time.
All right. That being said, that brings us to item number 14, and
So
that's
moved.
adjournment. Have
So
a
moved.
motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate your patience tonight.